Welcome to this session on costing for garment export orders. This is section 2, and in section 2 we are going to talk about fabric costing. Now, if you remember that in the previous section we had taken the price for 40s poplin as 50 rupees per meter, and we had taken the price of 60s cambric as 40 rupees per meter. Now you have to take these prices from the fabric manager of the factory before you input these prices in the cost sheet. Now, have you ever wondered how do we come up with this figure of 50 rupees for poplin or 40 rupees for cambric? So that is the part of fabric costing. Now, if we talk about fabric costing, it's important to know the following. We must know the count, the construction, and the weight of the fabric. The area from where this fabric has been sourced. What is the order quantity? What is the weight of the fabric? The number of colors in a print or yarn dyed fabric, and there are limitations of each type of fabric. So these are some of the considerations without which you will not be able to figure out the cost of the fabric. And also for the fact that as the count or the construction or the weight of the fabric changes, the fabric cost also changes. Now if the fabric is coming from let's say cotton made from cotton coming from Egypt, and let's say the same fabric has been made using fibers from India, then fabric being the same, the cost of the fabric is going to be different because their origins are different, and therefore the prices are different because the staple length of Indian fabric is less and the staple length of Egyptian cotton is more. The order quantity, if the order quantities are high, then the fabric cost has to be less, and if the order quantity is very less, then the fabric cost may be higher, for the simple fact that if you buy in bulk, you can demand for a better price. Then we come to width of the fabric. If the width of the fabric is larger, let's say 60 inches, 63 inches, in that case the fabric costing is better per square yardage if we talk about. And if the width of the fabric is 42 inches or 38 inches, in that case the consumption, the efficiency in terms of garment manufacturing, that efficiency is lower. So that's why we see that the width of the fabric, if the wider the fabric, more is the fabric cost. And of course the number of colors in print or yarn dyed fabric, if the fabric is printed or is yarn dyed, then the more the number of colors, the more expensive the fabric is going to be. And then of course all types of fabrics have their own limitations. So there are some fabrics which come with a lot of rejections and things like that. They are hard to handle. And there are some fabrics which are very stable. So most of the time the stable fabrics, their costs are very reasonable, and all the fabrics which are fancy, which are difficult to handle, those fabrics they would always be available at higher prices. They sell at high prices. So these are the considerations. Now if we go to slide number 8, the fabric procurement considerations, what we see, the four major considerations is: one is the quality, higher the quality, higher the price; lower the quality, lower the price. Delivery, faster you want, the prices are going to be higher. If you have enough time and you want a late delivery, you get better prices. If you want more service, better service, you have to pay more. If the service is very shabby, you might as well settle down for a lesser price. And then of course, if we talk about the price itself, then we would normally tend to buy from such sources which give us fabrics at lower prices. But not as a thumb rule, we should not buy fabric from those people who are giving us the lowest prices. We should also be looking at the quality, delivery and service, and then based on that and the price, then we should decide as to who should we buy from. Now if we come to the exacting part where the details come in, we are on slide number 9, and you can see that the raw cotton in the market, this is a hypothetical situation where the average current price is 70.52 rupees, which is 70 rupees 52 paisa per kg. Now please remember that cotton as a fiber is always sold in terms of kgs, and cotton as a fabric, it will be sold in terms of per yard or per meter. Now raw cotton, we are taking the average current price as 70 rupees 52 paise, and the cotton yarn, when the yarn has been made from the fiber, so the 40s cotton yarn, you are seeing this 40s yarn per kg, which includes the wastage and taxes, etc., that is 160 rupees per kg. So by this you can clearly make out that from fiber to yarn you have to do the spinning. So the cost of spinning per kg is 160 minus 70.52. So if we say 70 rupees a kg, then what is the cost of spinning? The cost of spinning is 160 minus 70, which is 90 rupees per kg. Now third section we see gray fabric cost. Now when you say gray fabric, it means that the yarns have been woven and we have the fabric. So the price of 40s poplin with ends per inch as 133 and peaks per inch as 72, and the weight is 100 grams per square meter. Now this gray fabric, the price is 56 rupees per meter. Now how do we come to 56 rupees? We are going to discuss in the subsequent slides, but here the cotton yarn is 160 rupees, gray fabric is 56 rupees per meter. Now the dimensions have changed. Cotton yarn is 160 per kg, but the gray fabric is not in kg, it is in terms of meter. Now a simple calculation that is required is that if your 1 meter of fabric is 100 GSM, then 10 meter of the fabric will be 1 kilo. So if you have 1 kilo of fabric, the price of the fabric per meter is 56 rupees. Now the price of this gray fabric, if you take 10 meters, is going to be 560 rupees. So what we are saying is that the gray fabric per kilo is 560 rupees, whereas the cotton yarn is 160 per kg. So which means that the cost of weaving, including all the other processes and sizing of the yarn and things like that, preparation of the beam and weaving and everything. So the yarn is 160 per kg and the fabric is 560 per kg. So the cost of weaving is 400 rupees, 560 minus 160. The cost of weaving is 400 rupees per kg, which means roughly 40 rupees per meter. So that's the rough value that we are getting. So here we have talked about the raw cotton, we have talked about the cotton yarn, and then we have talked about the gray fabric. So from raw cotton to cotton yarn we have to spin, from cotton yarn to gray fabric we have to weave. So from these figures we can calculate the cost of spinning and the cost of weaving. We go to the next slide, which is slide 10. Now this is where we are going to look at one such area, which is, let's say, bleaching. Bleaching is the process of subjecting cotton to the bleaching agent. And why do we need bleaching agent? If you want white color, you have to bleach it. So the cost of bleaching in white color, bleaching is white, so the cost of bleaching is 3 rupees 5 paise. Now how do we come to this 3 rupees 5 paise is what we will understand in the subsequent slides. And once you've understood this treatment, that how do we come to this 3 rupees 5 paisa, you will be able to understand the costing process of all the other elements, all the other components, all the other materials which are used in manufacturing of a garment. Now, because everything starts with a capital, so here with the infrastructure, so here what we are seeing is the first component that we have taken is depreciation. Now let's say the capital for bleaching, which is the machinery and the space and everything that has been taken. So the amount of money that has been spent is 2.5 million euros. Now normally for huge infrastructure, the depreciation period is taken as 10 years. So which means that if you have spent 2.5 million on the capital and the depreciation period is 10 years, then your depreciation cost per year is going to be 250,000, which is 1/10 of 2.5 million euros. Now there are other costs, financial costs. Now these other financial costs is 250,000 euro, which is shared by the finance department. So in total we have 500,000 euros, which is the cost of which is the total depreciation that we are talking about. Now other cost financial is where you have to pay the interest to the bank and other things. So you have depreciation, you have other costs. In total we are looking at 500,000 euros in 1 year. So therefore, what is the depreciation cost per day? So the depreciation cost per day is going to be 500,000 and you divide it by 365 days, or you can divide it by the total number of working days. So accordingly you will get your depreciation cost per day. And if per day your depreciation cost is 1370, then the depreciation cost per hour is going to be, so you divide it by, so 1370 is divided by the working hours, which is let's say 8 hours. So when you divide 1370 by the total number of working hours, we are getting 57 euros. Sorry, so here we are saying that this mill is working 24 hours per day. So depreciation cost per day is 1370. If you divide it by 24, you will get 57 euro. So the cost of depreciation per hour is 57 euro. You go on to slide number 12, and where we have calculated depreciation cost per hour is 57 euro. Now if you look at the exchange rate, euro versus rupees, this is an old rate, and at that point of time the exchange rate was 71.24, which means 1 euro was equal to 71.24 rupees. Now so the depreciation cost per hour would be, so in terms of euros it is 57, and in terms of rupees it is 4066, because we have multiplied 57 with the exchange rate, which is 71.24. So the depreciation cost per hour in terms of rupees is 4066. Now we go to another aspect which is related to the production. Now the speed of the machine is 130 meter per minute. Now this means that the machine that we have for bleaching, the speed is 130 meter per minute. Now if the speed is 130 meter per minute, then the amount of fabric which will be processed in 1 hour is 130 into 60, because in 1 hour you have 60 minutes. So 130 meter per minute, and if you take per hour, then 130 into 60 is 7,800 meters. And so there's a peak speed, peak capacity. Now the efficiency is 80% normally, because there are breakdowns, there are breaks in between, people take off, have lunch, and then something or the other goes on happening. So practically speaking, the efficiency is only 80%, which is also on the higher side. So if our total capacity, peak capacity is 7,800 meters per hour, and adjusted for efficiency is 80%, then we are looking at effectively the factory is able to do 6,240, which is 80% of 7,800. So per hour the mill is bleaching 6,240 meters, and the mill is having a depreciation cost per hour of 57 euros. The 57 euros is 4,066 rupees. So depreciation cost per meter is going to be, so you take the depreciation cost, which is 4,066, and you divide it by the total number of meters. Now the total number of meters is 6,240. So 4,066 divided by 6,240 gives us 65 paise, or 0.65 rupee. So the depreciation cost per meter is 65 paise. So when we are calculating the cost of bleaching per meter, then it also includes the depreciation cost, which is 65 paise, Now going further forward, we go to slide number 13. Now the chemical cost per meter is 1 rupee. How do we do that? So let's say you bleach 1000 meters and then you see how much of chemical you have used. Now when you see the amount of chemical that you used, now you can look at the cost of the chemical consumed. So if the cost of the chemical is, let's say, 1000 rupees and you have bleached 1000 meters, then the chemical cost per meter is 1 rupee. Fairly simple. So that is the chemical cost per meter. Now if the water consumption is this is again a real figure from the last decade. The water consumption is 4125 liters per hour. Now this much water has been used in 1 hour while bleaching is happening, and per liter the water cost is, let's say, 1 rupee. So if 1 rupee is the water cost, then the amount of money that you require to spend on water per hour will be 4125 liters into per liter cost, which is 1 rupee. So the amount of money spent on water alone per hour is 4125. So therefore, what is the water cost per meter? How much money will you have to spend on the water cost per meter? How do we calculate that? So because per hour you are bleaching 6240 meters and per hour you are spending 4125 rupees on water. So the cost of water is 4125 divided by 6240, which gives us 66 paisa. So depreciation cost per meter was calculated as 65 paise. Chemical cost per meter was calculated as 1 rupee, and now the water cost per meter is 66 paisa. Going further, we have air consumption. Now air consumption is, let's say, 21 meter cube per hour, and the per meter cube air cost is 50 rupees. Now this is something which is something unheard of, but then you also have to pay for the air to the Ministry of Environment. Now air consumption is 21 meter cube per hour. That the factory can give you that data, that how much of a meter cube of air is being used. So air consumption is 21 meter cube, and then you have to find out how much money do you have to pay for per meter cube of air cost, and that again the factory gives the detail that it is 50 rupees. So therefore air cost per meter, how much would that be? Now air consumption is 21 rupees, per meter cube air cost is 50 rupees. So per hour we are spending 50 into 21 rupees, which is 1050 rupees. So 1050 rupees is being spent per hour on buying air that you have to pay to the Ministry of Environment. Now, how will you calculate the air cost per meter? So per hour, the amount of money you are spending on purchasing air, and how many meters are you making? So you divide the air cost, which is 1050, you divide it by the number of meters that you are bleaching. So, and the number of meters that we are bleaching is 6240 meters. So when we divide that 1050 by 6240, we get 13 paisa. Similarly for steam consumption, steam, we have to produce the steam. So there is energy required. It can be coal fired, it can be charcoal, it can be electricity, electric boiler. Now we need fuel or resources to create steam. Now the factory says that the steam consumption per hour is 5410 kg, and the cost of producing steam per kilo is 50 paisa. So you can very well find out what is the steam consumption, what is the cost of steam per hour. So the cost of steam per hour is 5410 kg multiplied by 50 paisa. So that gives us roughly 2700 rupees. Now, so what is the steam cost per meter? So the steam cost is per hour, the steam cost is 2700, and you are bleaching 6240. So if you divide 2700 by 6240, we get 35 paise. So by virtue of that, and then we go to the next slide, which is slide number 15. We come to power consumption. This is fairly easy to understand and easy to calculate. Power consumption, you can simply look at the meter and you will see, you will be able to find out. Here it is saying the factory, the mill is consuming 375 kilowatt per hour. And the cost of industrial cost of power is per kilowatt is 8 rupees. So which means per hour the amount of money that you are spending on power, electricity power, is 375 into 8, which is equal to roughly 3000 rupees, which means the power cost per meter is equal to 3000 divided by 6240 meters, which comes to 38 paise. So having done all that calculation, if you come to slide number 16, you can see that the depreciation cost is 65 paise per meter, chemical cost is 1 rupee per meter, water is 53 paise, air is 13 paise, steam is 35 paise, power is 38 paise. So the total cost per meter, the total cost of bleaching per meter is 3 rupees 5 paise. So this is the kind of treatment that has to be done if you are trying to calculate the cost of a zipper or an elastic. So let's say you are a manufacturer of zippers. How would you do the costing? So you look at all the activities that you are undertaking. So when you are making zippers, you still have to use machinery. Machine will come at a cost, and therefore you will take the cost of capital. You will also take the depreciation cost, and then you will also take the labor. You will take all the materials which are being used, and all the other things. And you can do it for per hour expenses, and then per hour how much of zipper you are producing, and therefore per hour you can find out per zipper what is the depreciation cost, what is the chemical cost, what is the water cost, what is the air cost, steam cost if steam is required, or what is the power cost. Of course power will be required, and therefore what will be the total cost per zipper. So the same treatment has to be done, which will help you to get the accurate cost calculation of a zipper, or for a button, or for any other material. So now with an understanding of how have we calculated the cost of something as small as a small part as bleaching. So if you can do it for bleaching, you can also do it for dyeing. You can do it, then you can do it for printing, or you can do it for yarn dyed fabrics. So we've taken a case that's slide number 17. Now this case is in the visual you can see a white shirt. Now this white shirt, the fabric is 40 poplin, and the ends per inch and picks per inch are 133 by 72, and the consumption per shirt is, let's say the pattern has been made and we are able to calculate that per garment, per shirt, we need 2.2 meters. So what do you think will be the expenditure on fabric for one shirt? Now since we know that the cost of fabric per meter is 56 rupees, and cost of the white fabric, cost of the fabric is 56 rupees, and the cost of bleaching is 3.05 rupees. So the total cost per meter of white fabric is 59.05 rupees, and the consumption that has been given is 2.2 meters. So therefore the cost of the fabric per shirt is going to be cost per meter of the fabric multiplied by 2.2 meter, which is 59.05 into 2.20, and that gives us a round figure of rupees 129.91. So you know the cost of yarn, you know the cost of fiber, then you know the cost of spinning, so you know the cost of yarn, then you know the cost of weaving, therefore you know the cost of fabric, and then you also know the cost of bleaching. So now you can calculate the cost of white fabric, and when you know the consumption, how much of fabric is required per shirt, then you can now find out the accurate cost of fabric per shirt, and that is 129 rupees 91 paise. So with this kind of micro treatment of micro calculation of bleaching, I understand how we calculate the cost of various materials. So that brings us to the end of the second section. In the third section, we are going to talk about costing for accessories and packing material.